this is the consequence of all of this stuff. And this one with COVID is the biggest one by far. But even when people would, I remember like when Donald Trump was running for president in 2016, and the people in the corporate press, who I know some of them, and they'd be saying these things like, they'd be like, he's just calling us fake news and liars and all of this. And like, how is this resonating with so many people? And they were like completely like, and you're like, guys, I don't know. I mean, you sold a war where 1 million people died off this guy had weapons of mass destruction, and he didn't. Like, real people's kids went and fought in that war and then came back and blew their brains out. This happened. Tens of thousands of American soldiers blew their brains out. You know, like, a lot of people knew that guy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. And they know that you sold this war. Do you think that in the next 10 years after that, the fact that people have no trust in you, there might be a connection there? You know, do you think the fact that even like Barack Obama, you know, saying, you know, whatever, if you like your plan, you can keep your plan, or just all these lies.
Yeah.
Like, people remember this stuff. But man, if they think that the people in 2016 didn't trust the corporate press, after this, the amount of people who will never look at CNN again, will never look at the New York Times again, as if there's any pretense of even you're pretending to tell the truth. It's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
Or at least it's for huge numbers of people. They'll never trust you again. You can never talk to them again.
Well, I think what CNN's trying to do now is rebuild, and they're trying to become a source of objective news. And I think this new guy recognizes the mistakes of you're allowing editorials by some of the dumbest fucking people on television, and people that are only there because they were hired. One of the beautiful things about whether it's Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar, who it's my favorite show. One of the best points about it is there's no one running that but them. You're getting objective information from people that you trust. They're gathering up everything they can find, and they can give an assessment based on their understanding of these issues, and then they debate it and they talk about it and they go over it back and forth. People chose them. People know they can trust them, so they follow them. That's not the case with people on television. They just get hired.
Well, and it's right. It's a thing you can read that it's kind of like however you feel about Crystal and Sagar, they're not lying to you. Right. You can kind of tell that they're telling you what they think.
Yes.
Not to say that they're right about everything, but they're also there's no pretense of them being objective journalists. They both are opinion journalists. Like, they're both like, okay, like, she's kind of like a left-wing populist, he's kind of a right-wing populist type. But so they're like, but that's our opinion. We'll let you know that up front.
Yes.
Rather than pretending, I take no opinion here. I'm just an objective journalist, and you know what Brian Stelter did. And everybody knows that we're real news and they're fake news. Exactly. That's the objective truth. It's like, no, it's not.
It doesn't work. No one trusts you. You're not even a real person. Like, the way you talk is like a lizard pretending to be a person. It's like very strange, right?
Yeah.
But what gives me hope about those two, Crystal and Sagar, is that they are a right-wing populist and a left-wing populist, and yet they're very good friends, and they get along great, and they have respectful conversations about things.
And you actually realize that they have a lot of overlap, which is a big thing that I think that the kind of powerful, like the establishment, work very hard to make sure that you don't ever think about that.
Right. Don't
how
think about
much
the overlap.
Actually that your average, like, you know, left of center person, right of center person has in common, and that and this is why they love pumping these culture war issues so much, because they're the things that get the two sides fighting with each other while they're off at the top not caring.
Right. Like,
you know, like what J.P. Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs or the Federal Reserve, what they love is when left-wing America and right-wing America are at each other's throats and they're just raking in billions of dollars in profits because no one's looking at them. But if you really think about the things that most people care about, like most regular Americans care about the most, is they're like, you know, my health care is like really unaffordable, or you know, groceries just went through the roof. My rent just like went up by 25%. And so it's like, you go, well, you know, like, does inflation fuck over left-wingers or right-wingers? Fucks over both of them. Like, it's like all of these things. It's not a left versus right issue. It's like a top versus down issue. You know who it really helped? It helped all of the people that got the big corporations who got all that bailout money when the Federal Reserve printed $6 trillion in 2020. It was really good for them. It's really bad for you. So the old George Carlin thing, right? It's a big fucking club, and you ain't in it.
Yep.
And that's a left-winger or a right-winger.
Yep.
You're not in this club.
Nope.
It's that club versus you.
Right.
That's the narrative. And they have a lot more in common with each other. Let me tell you, the Republican politicians and Democrat politicians have a lot more in common with each other than they have with you. And left-winger and right-winger American, you have a lot more in common with each other than you do with Biden or Romney. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and those culture war issues, that's the most important thing that you're saying. And this is something that people need to get in their head, that these culture war issues that we're seeing in the news every day, there is an element of distraction about that. No matter how much you think these issues are important, they are important. They certainly are. They are to people.
Yeah, there's lots of them that are very important.
They're very important. But they're not talking about them because they're important.
Right.
They're talking about them because they know this will solidify people's adherence to the ideology, whether it's the right-wing ideology or the left-wing ideology.